So hi everybody, it's really lovely to be back again with you today. And when I found out that the topic of today's event was unconditional self-love, I said to Anne, I really do want to speak just very briefly because finding self-love has been a lifelong journey for me, a journey of decades. And I feel I'd like to share what it is that I've learned. As always, I'll be sharing what works for me. It may not work for you, but it does work for me. And certainly I'm hoping to provide a little bit of a new perspective maybe, or provide you with some ideas or some, I don't know, some guidance or something. So for me, unconditional self-love really is pretty much the only journey that we have to undertake in this lifetime. We have to learn to unconditionally love all aspects of ourselves, all parts of ourselves, integrate, love them, see them, notice them, and love them, and love them, and love them. And the reason for that is once we actually have done all of that, we are then coming into contact with our most authentic self. I call it the most authentic self. Our aunt calls it the divine self. It's the same thing, really. And it is only then, once we are fully contacted and in connection with our authentic self, that the work of this lifetime really begins. And that is the work of expressing that authentic self into this reality. That's why we've come here. That is the purpose of why we're here, what we've come here to do. But it really all starts with that, getting to that place of realizing that you are your divine self. You are your most authentic self. And for me, that took a very long time. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about my journey, and then we'll circle back to unconditional self-love at the end and what that really means for me at this point in time. So for me, in my late teens, moving into my early 20s, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that I really was very broken. Extremely traumatized. Really, I'd had a very abusive, very traumatic childhood, and there wasn't much love and compassion. So I really was in a very bad way. I didn't just not love myself, I really despised myself. I loathed myself. I didn't find myself to be worthy of love. I was completely disconnected from self. And I was very self-destructive. I was engaging in many incredibly self-destructive habits, and I was really on a trip to a very bad place. And in fact, I did have a suicide attempt, and I really was in a very, very bad way. You know, and I suppose for most people, when they think of depression, you know, they imagine somebody who is lying in bed all day in a darkened room, not wanting to eat, not able to sleep, not wanting to engage with the world. And for many people, I think depression does look like that. But for some people, depression looks different. And for me, I was deeply depressed, but my form of depression was manic activity, frenetic activity. I couldn't allow myself to even sit still or calm down for a second. I think because I was so overwhelmed by the feelings that arose within me of self-loathing and self-hatred and the self-destructive behavior. So I was just on the go all the time, frenetic, mad, chaotic. And, you know, they say the squeaky wheel gets the oil, and it's true. And I was never a squeaky wheel. You know, looking from the outside, everybody thought I was the golden girl, because I had it all. You know, I was always top of the class for everything at school and at university, and I had my future all mapped out. I was getting bursaries. I was just shining on every field of endeavor, not just academically, in every other area as well. And so I never got any oil. You know, people thought I was absolutely fine, but I was very much not fine. I was very much not fine, and I was really on a one-way ticket to somewhere very bad. And then when I was 23 years old, somebody very special appeared in my life. It was this beautiful 21-year-old boy called On. And, you know, for the first time, I experienced love. And I couldn't believe the way this boy could love me. It was just so completely overwhelming. He just adored me. And I was like this bottomless well. And he just loved me, and he loved me, and he kept on loving me and loving me and loving me and loving me. And I really do believe that I would not have embarked upon this journey towards self-love if I'd not had that initial love. And so I will always be grateful to that boy, to that man who loved me so much and who let me see that possibly there was something worthy of love in me. Something worthy enough of love that I could take a step towards trying to learn to find a way of loving myself. Because the reality is nobody can love you into loving yourself. You have to do that journey yourself. But certainly that love that I experienced from On as he was just such a young boy, really set me on my path. So the first thing I had to learn to do was I had to learn to re-language, change the way I spoke to myself. Because as I've shared this with some of you, but the first thing I used to do every single morning was look in the mirror and I would go, I hate you, you're disgusting, you're fat, you're useless, you're worthless. I would say these things to myself. And throughout the day, I would say, oh, you're such a stupid bitch. Like, why did you do that? Why did you say that? You're worthless. I would talk to myself all the time like that. And I needed to learn to change that. So what I did was I developed a little mantra. And every time I had a negative thought about myself, every time I said something negative about myself, I would immediately say the mantra. And let me tell you, it took years. It took years. And it really took a lot of hard work. And I found in the beginning, I was saying my mantra hundreds and hundreds of times a day. But gradually, things started to change for me. I also made use of talismans, like things that I actually wore on my person, and I also would draw things on my wrist with eyebrow pencil. I tried many different ways to remind myself throughout the day to treat myself in a better way, to change the way I spoke to myself. And the idea was that I should learn to treat myself the way I would treat my beloved. And that was quite a revelation for me, because I was also told that, would you speak to your beloved in this way? Would you speak to a child in this way? Would you say to them, you're useless, you're worthless, you're disgusting, you're no good, you're not worthy of love? Never. I would never say that to somebody else. And yet I was saying that to myself. So having to learn to re-language and to treat myself the way I would treat my beloved. So that included everything, as in like the food I chose to eat. What kind of food would I feed my beloved? How would I dress my beloved? How would I bathe my beloved? What music would I play for my beloved? What books would I read? What friends would I like my beloved to be around? On every level of my life, just changing the way I engaged with myself. And at the same time, I also did a lot of therapy, talk therapy, hypnotherapy, past life regression therapy. I did a lot of inner child work. I did a lot of shadow work. It was really needed. I attended a lot of workshops. I read umpteen books. I studied with various teachers and gurus, and I really put a lot of work and effort into this journey into self-love. And you know what? It really did pay off. I really started to find love for myself. And as that happened, you know, they say the world is a mirror, and it truly is. In the beginning of my journey, there was no one around me to love me until On, of course, appeared. But somehow, as I developed self-love, suddenly I realized all around me were people who loved me. All around me were people who cared for me. And what I was seeing in the mirror of the world was changing, as I was changing. But through all of this, although I did attain a degree of self-love, there was always this underlying thought that I was somehow broken or defective or wrong, and that I had to work on myself, you know, have this constant DIY project of self-improvement. I constantly had to work on myself, and as you've heard already, I did a lot of work. But the underlying idea was that I needed to work. I needed to keep working in order to be worthy of love, in order to earn love, in order to earn my redemption or my salvation on some level. And you know, the world actually feeds this idea to us all the time. And the reason actually is because as someone who really has unconditional self-love, they become very poor consumers of stuff. You know, it's only through believing that I'm somehow defective or broken or wrong, and that this lipstick or this face cream or this car or this house or this course or this book or whatever is going to fix me, help me to grow, to become better, to become more, to become worthy, or to become someone worthy of love. It's only that makes me buy that stuff, right? So we consume because we don't have self-love, or we don't have sufficient self-love. But that is a tangent. But even many of our religious traditions or our spiritual traditions give us the same idea, right? Like we have to keep working at ourselves, and we've got to keep working to be worthy of love. And actually, yeah, it's fine up till a point. And then I discovered Tantra. And there is this tantric principle, which is about acknowledging, being present to what is in the field around me and in the world around me, acknowledging it, seeing it, being present to it, and loving it. So what this idea tells me is that I don't have to overcome anything, or I don't have to change anything. I can simply love what is. Let me give you an example of that. So I love going to dance class. I do dance class 2 or 3 times a week. And once I started on my spiritual journey, I noticed that when I'm in the dance class, I'm constantly comparing myself to everybody else in the dance class. And I noticed, I'm better than that one, and I'm better than that one, but that one's better than me. So I've got to work to get better. And I'm comparing myself. I'm like internally competing with this person or these people all the time. And so I was judging that in myself, because that's not very spiritual, right? I shouldn't be comparing myself. I shouldn't be competitive. Like, I don't want to be that. So don't think those thoughts. Don't do that. That's not a good thing to do. Or I would notice, for example, sometimes I'm really greedy and I really overeat, and then I judge myself. I shouldn't be greedy. Or sometimes I have selfish thoughts or mean thoughts, and then I shouldn't think like that. I need to not be like that. I need to be different from that. I need to, ascend my consciousness, be a better person, all of these spiritual ideas. And so essentially what I do then is I'm other that. I say I'm not that. I'm not allowed to be that. That must go aside. I must think better thoughts, be better, do better, this constant self-improvement project. And of course, what happens with all that stuff, it gets put into the shadow. And we've already spoken several times about what happens when you put stuff in the shadow. You dissociate from that. You distantiate yourself. You say, you other that. That's not me. It's not allowed. And now that stuff sits in the shadow, and it ferments and festers, and it pops up in your life, and it affects your life in many different devious ways. But we've spoken about shadow. We're not going to talk about that today. But the idea of Tantra is that we allow and we welcome all of what we are. We see it, we acknowledge it, we're conscious to it, and we learn to love it. So Tantra tells me I don't have to tell myself I may not compare myself, I may not compete. Tantra tells me, okay, well, I'm present to the fact that I'm comparing myself. I'm present to the fact that I'm a highly competitive person. Guess what? I can love that. I can love that about myself. And I'm present to the fact that sometimes I'm selfish, and sometimes I'm greedy, and sometimes I have mean thoughts. I'm present and I'm conscious, and I can love that. And I mean, it's counterintuitive, but the minute I can own and claim all these things about myself, now they belong to me. I'm no longer dissociating and distantiating myself from them. Now I can actually do something about them. I can be present and conscious to the mean thought that has just appeared in my mind, and I can go, okay, I can observe that. That's a thought. I don't have to associate or have to make it me. It's just a thought that arises, and I can choose something different or not. But I can love myself fully in the totality of what I am. Because the reality is, this being that I am is perfect. It's created perfectly to have this life and to have these expressions and to be in this world. I don't need to transcend this being or ascend out of this world or become something different. This is who I am. What I have to learn to do is to love myself completely and fully and totally for all that I am, for all these aspects that I am, and to integrate them all. And as I start to do that, I start to think, oh, but actually I can love this competitive side of me, and it's actually beautiful. And I can love the selfish side of me, and it's actually beautiful. There's times where it's completely appropriate to be selfish, and I always have choice. But this particular, we are all a set of filters that filters the pure, undifferentiated light of the divine, and we filter it into a particular flavor that is us. A flavor that is me. And it's perfect and it's beautiful and it's magnificent. And this me has a very specific purpose that it has to do in this world. So instead of spending all my time saying, that's not me, that's not me, that's not me, I can rather say, this is me. All of this. And it's all beautiful and I can love it all. And as I love it and as I integrate it, I step into my full and authentic self. There's nothing that I can't allow. There's nothing that I can't integrate. There's no part of myself that I'm dissociating from, making wrong, pushing away. This is all just me. And then I can smile sometimes at the thoughts that arise. I can smile sometimes at the emotions, and I can feel them fully, be fully in the world and fully experience it, and I can let them go and I can let them move past. But I'm becoming ever more myself. I am ever more my authentic self. And now that I am my authentic beingness, the question now is, how will that authentic beingness express in this world? What is it that my unique beingness has come here to express in this world? What is my gift? What is it that I'm meant to do in this world? And this is ultimately my purpose. This is my ultimate purpose. And that is so exciting, the thought of that. But we can't get to that until we get to the place of unconditional self-love. And that, as I've said, is about allowing and accepting all the parts of self and not pushing them away. I am perfect. I am God expressing itself through this meat suit, as Arne puts it, through this construct, through this set of energetic imprints and filters that is me. And I'm here for a very specific purpose. And you are perfect, and you are the divine expressing itself through the set of filters that is you. And you have a very unique purpose. And that's on the other side of unconditional self-love. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that.